Hi, this is Joby Provido, and you're listening to Contemplating the Rosary, where we talk about how to pray the Holy Rosary even better. In 104 episodes, over 4 seasons, we will explore a method of how to say the Rosary the way Pope St. John Paul II, Pope Paul VI, and other Rosary advocates recommend, and that's by contemplating the mysteries while we say the Our Father, Hail Mary, and Glory Be. This podcast is based on the book Beyond the Veil, Contemplating the Mysteries of the Holy Rosary, available at Lazada in the Philippines and in print or Kindle on Amazon, wherever you are. Visit kindlingspress.com for more information and where you can read and download the episode guide. This is episode 30 of the series, the second episode of season 2. It's such a blessing you're listening in on how to pray the Rosary the contemplative way. In this episode, we're starting with the first joyful mystery, the Annunciation. In the first season, we explored how Mary was troubled by the angel's greeting. This time, we move on to the good news that Gabriel was bringing with him. After the angel Gabriel greeted Our Lady, he told her that she was going to conceive a child who would inherit the throne of David, rule over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end. To you and me today, these words might not mean much, but to a Jew of that time, it was big news. It's exciting news. That's because God promised them a Messiah, and prophets have given them clues to recognize him when he comes. He would be a king in the line of David, whose kingdom would last forever. But let's rewind a little bit and do a flashback into Israel's history. I think this will help us see why this announcement to Mary was so important. When King David established Jerusalem to be his premier city, he felt bad that the Ark of the Covenant was housed in a movable tent, as it had been since the time of Moses. So he thought it might be best to build a magnificent and permanent house for God, who manifested himself as a cloud above the Ark of the Covenant. I think we can't deny that that was a gracious idea. But God spoke to David through the prophet Nathan to show the king what bigger things he would do. So God said through Nathan, "Is it you who will build me a house to dwell in? The Lord declares that the Lord will make a house for you. When your days have been completed and you rest with your ancestors, I will raise your offspring after you, sprung from your loins, and I will establish his kingdom. He it is who shall build a house for my name, and I will establish his royal throne forever. I will be a father to him, and he shall be a son to me. Your house and your kingdom are firm forever before me. Your throne shall be firmly established forever." End quote. We of course know the son of King David is Solomon, who would become king and who would finish building the temple where the Ark of the Covenant would be venerated. The Israelites held on to God's promise generation after generation, but that hope slowly dissipated when the kingdom was split into 2 kingdoms under 2 kings. Very quickly, the northern kingdom fell under the Assyrians, who exiled the citizens and never to come home again. At least there was still a king in Judea in the other kingdom, but things started to look bleak again when that kingdom also fell into the hands of Babylon. Likewise, the citizens were exiled, but at least Babylon allowed a government under King Zedekiah to continue running. But their spirits were totally crushed when the Babylonians killed the sons of King Zedekiah before killing him as well. So all the direct heirs to the throne were dead. The throne is vacant. There is no king. No one in the bloodline of David would like to take the throne, or else they would be killed as well. And that was the end of the Davidic kingdom. We have to imagine the Jews at that time asking themselves, has God turned his back on us? Is there a God at all? Because if there is, he wouldn't go back on his promise. We have to imagine what kind of spiritual confusion and desolation this may have caused them. The Babylonians may have been gone during the time of Mary, but the Romans were the new oppressors. And for about 700 years, or about 28 generations, the Jews felt that God abandoned them. So, when the angel announced to Mary that her child would be the king that would retake the throne of David, it is basically the fulfillment of God's promise that David's throne will last forever. It dovetails so nicely because God told David that it is David's son whose throne will last forever, that God will be a father to him and he will be a son to God. This prophecy sounds so cryptic during the Old Testament, but now it's crystal clear knowing that Jesus is the promised Messiah who would be a king of David's kingdom. And it isn't a coincidence that the messianic title is Son of David, just as the prophecy stated. And this is where I get goosebumps. And indeed, Jesus is the Son of God, and God is a father to him. In Christ, the Old Testament prophecies are better than they actually are. We would have never thought that the Messiah would be God himself. This is great news, and Mary is the first to hear this. She's the first to be told that God has not abandoned them. She's the first to be told that the Messiah they have been waiting for hundreds of years is about to be conceived. We have to put ourselves in the scene and watch her face as the angel tells her of this good news. She must be smiling from ear to ear, the smile almost tearing her face. She was smiling for all of Israel. And let's put ourselves in her place and feel the pulse of her heart beating fast at receiving this very happy news. I think this is one of those things that make this a joyful mystery, that God fulfills his promise, but not in the way we expect. He always fulfills it in a more extraordinary way, a way we could never have thought of. God always continues to surprise us, only if we let him. Let's end here and pick it up next season. Don't forget to like this episode, click the subscribe button and the notification bell icon so you'll be notified when the next episode drops. As always, this podcast is brought to you by thecatholictalks.com and kindlingspress.com, where you can read more articles on the Catholic faith and find more books on Catholicism. This has been Joby Provido. I will say goodbye for now, and please join me again next time when we learn to pray the Rosary better. Bye-bye.